Welcome back to the Inside Texas Basketball Show. I'm your host, Evan Veith, as always, joined by Keenan Womack right next to me. We keep switching our backgrounds. Keenan's back in the office. I'm in a classroom at the Moody College of Communication as I'm still working on this camp that you guys saw on Monday if you watched the baseball show. But it's a cool day today because it is the NBA draft. It is always so impressive how fast they turn it around from Game 7 of the finals, 3 days ago, into already drafting. The GM of the Pacers is probably having a terrible time after celebrating or losing that game on Sunday and having to go right into work again. But of course, there is a commit we're going to talk about a little later in the show. But we're going to start out with obviously Trey Johnson here because that is the talk of the town amongst Texas fans. Where's Trey going to go? It feels like top 10 is almost guaranteed. Maybe even top 8 is guaranteed. But Keenan, you're obviously our basketball expert here. Let's talk fits first before we talk what you actually think is going to happen. He's not going to get 1 or 2. That's Flagg and Harper. But I think the conversation starts at 3 with Philadelphia. So do you think that's the high where he could go? Is that maybe not a place where you see his skill set working well? Where do you like for him to go in this spot?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard people have him ranked as the 3rd-ranked prospect. Some people do. I believe CBS had that. And, I think Philadelphia settled in on VJ Edgecombe. From what I've read, from who I've talked to, that seems like the consensus. Because I know a lot of people who are scouts, some people who work in front offices, and that seems to be the consensus that VJ Edgecombe is going to go 3rd to Philadelphia, the Baylor guard, real good defensive player. But I think where it really starts to make sense, because I think 4, they're going to go with Con Knippel, Charlotte. I think that he makes probably better sense there in between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. I think Con Knippel can play shooting guard. I know he played a lot of wing at Duke, but I think he has a shooting guard skill set. He's a connective passer. He can do a lot of things that they need outside of, because almost a little bit Trey and Brandon Miller I wouldn't say they're redundant, but they do have some overlap in skill set.
They have their top 2 scorers.
Yeah, exactly. And where you're really starting to see fits that make sense is 5 at Utah, 6 for Washington, 7 for New Orleans. We'll get to why I'm not sure about that. And then 8 to Brooklyn seems like it would be the floor of where he would go. So pick 5 to Utah makes a lot of sense. I went on Utah Sports Radio, KSLR, I believe, ago. And pretty much what they were saying is they need some kind of boost to their offense right now. They have a bad defense as well. Utah is a team that needs all kinds of things, but they don't really have a scoring wing that's super consistent, right? So Trey Johnson would make a lot of sense there. They have a couple of guards he could play off of in Isaiah Collier and Keontae George, even though Keontae George kind of plays some shooting guard as well. He's kind of a combo guard. But I think he would make a lot of sense there. And then 6 to Washington, I think, is what makes the most sense out of all these picks, right? I could see Utah. They're kind of a wild card. Nobody really knows what Utah's going to do. The top 4 picks aren't settled. Top 2 are. 3 and 4 are people have a pretty good idea of who they're going to go with. 5 is where all bets are off. I could see Ace Bailey ending up in Utah. And personally, I think Ace would make a lot of sense in Utah too, because he at least has some pretty elite defensive upside. Now, he's not an amazing defender yet, but he has the tools to be a really good perimeter defender. And more than anything, Utah needs perimeter defense. Like, they were horrendous last year in like every defensive category you can imagine. I think they were the worst defensive team in the NBA last year. I mean, that's what happens when you trot out Lowry Markkanen and like all these guys, you don't have
undersized guards.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. Yeah. So you don't have like, a wing stopper. So I think Ace Bailey makes a lot of sense at 5 for Utah, but man, Trey makes a lot of sense for Washington. They were a really bad offensive unit last year, very young team, but they just traded their main scorer, Jordan Poole, to New Orleans yesterday for CJ McCollum, and so I think there's some room there for Trey to get in there, and I think it's best for Trey to end up on an Eastern Conference team, right? Like, you go to the West, you are dealing with an extremely talented group of players. It's a very, very physical conference. Now, the top teams in the East are comparable to the top teams in the West, but the depth is a lot different. The depth in the East is not nearly as good as the depth in the West. There are teams that are probably 6th in the West that would finish top 3 in the East, that kind of thing, especially with the injuries that just happen in these playoffs. The East is going to be wide open.
It's going to be blown up.
It's going to be Cleveland and maybe New York. Those are the only teams.
Question mark after that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Trey's ideal spot would be an Eastern Conference team, and that could be 6 to Washington. 7 to New Orleans is the one, like a guy like Sam Vecini. That's what he thinks he's going to go. And my confusion with that is whether or not he makes sense next to a Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
And Jordan Poole is a guy that I think New Orleans is banking on having some lead guard skills, right? Like Washington played him at some lead guard last year to mixed results. And so also you don't want to interrupt your draft timeline based upon Jordan Poole, I don't think. I think you got to go with the best player available if you're New Orleans. Now, I've heard Derek Queen is an option for New Orleans at 7. I've even heard Kamon Malawach, which like they already have Eve Missy, but those guys know better than me, so I'll default to them. But I think Trey, you could see Trey at 7, and then the absolute lowest spot you're going to see him is 8 to Brooklyn. Brooklyn was a horrendous offensive team last year. I mean, just really, really bad. You had the two Cams kind of switching in and out, who was actually playing and who was injured, Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson. Trey is a guy that could step in and immediately raise the floor of that team from a shooting perspective, from a spacing perspective. And, I could also see Brooklyn moving up because they have 5 first-round picks now. They have 8, they have 19, 22, 25, 24, 26, 27, something like that. They have 5 first-round picks. So you imagine they're going to package some of those guys and try to move up maybe try to get Jeremiah Fear, somebody like that, some kind of lead guard prospect for them. But those are kind of the options. I really would be surprised if he went higher than 5 just because I really think that I'm really confident Philadelphia is going to go with VJ at 3, and I'm really not as confident as I am with VJ to Philly, but feel pretty good about Con Knipple to Charlotte. Maybe even Kamon Malawach there if they decide to move off of Mark Williams. Yeah, so we'll see with that. But I mean, I really think the range for Trey is going to be 5, 6, 7, or 8. 5 and 6 make the most sense in my mind as to where he would make sense, and really hope for his case it's an Eastern Conference team because it's gonna be a lot easier for him to become a max player quickly in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, if you think about who's in the East at the shooting guard position, it's Donovan Mitchell and Tyler Hero, and then not a lot of pure scores, not a lot of 20-point per game guys. I think the only one that averaged over 20 points per game was, if you count Poole, who's now gone, and Kobe White, if you want to call him a point guard shooting, he's a combo guard, but yeah, that's about it in the East. So he instantly becomes one of the best scoring guards there, and with Halliburton out, adds him up on the list. So, like you said, that top 4 seems like the four of the best players in this class, and then they already have the teams that match up very well for them. I do see a chance of the Nets going to that 4 spot and taking a guy that they really believe in. Maybe that's Ace Bailey. Maybe that is Fears, something like that. Mm-hmm. But after those 4, it's Bailey, Johnson, and Fears probably feels like the next 3 guys that are at least the most talented. It doesn't mean they're going to be the ones taken next. Mm-hmm. But 5 to Utah, I think it's one of those 3 because, like you said, they need offense. Fears maybe kind of overrides what Collier did last year, but if they don't think Collier is their long-term point guard option, you take your point guard of the future right there. Could be Johnson, could be Bailey for similar reasons that you already brought up. I'd love it if my Wizards took Trey Johnson. I've been saying in our boards when Keenan put up a post about an hour ago, and we were talking to some of our subscribers, and I liked the Bailey fit in Utah a lot more than I liked it in DC. I don't think DC has the structure to have a guy like him succeed. I do think they can develop Trey Johnson to be the number 1 guy. And hey, we have Sarr, we have Koulibaly, we have Carrington, actual good role players, but they're not going to be number 1s on a championship team. That's what Johnson could be. We don't know if he will be, but he's got that ceiling. He's the best pure scorer in this draft. I do think there's an interesting wrinkle of him maybe as a trade-up candidate or trade-around candidate, because I don't personally love the Nets fit unless they're kind of saying Cam Thomas, good luck somewhere else. This is going to be who we build around, because it is just 2 shooting guards, not pure ball handlers. Johnson struggled when he had to be kind of a point guard last year. He can pass, but he's not as good as a pure ball handler. Yes. And then at 7, like you said, there's a lot of wings on New Orleans. Poole makes it more. Is he going to be a point guard? I don't know. But if he's that kind of shooting guard role, then I don't think you want him there, Johnson there. But then it becomes, hey, is there a team that wants to trade in and say, we know he's one of the 7 best players in this class, but he's falling to 8 or 9, where like the Raptors, who have the 9th pick, they've been drafting shooting guards every draft. Walter, Dick, those kind of guys have RJ Barrett. I don't think they want to take another shooting guard. So Suns don't have the capital to trade up, but do the Blazers see him as the complement to Scoot Henderson? Do the Bulls want to get another guard on their team? I don't think the Hawks would break up what they're doing, but the Thunder are right there. Do they want a shooter and a scorer off the bench? There's a lot of options, even the Spurs, for those, Texas people who would like to see that happen. There's so many options for what could happen, and it's kind of hard to identify that if he gets after the Wizards, if they don't take him, say it goes Fears, then Bailey, like where does he go? Is there a team, like you said, the Nets maybe just go and take him. But is there some kind of trade up package? And I guess to mark off that, Keenan, is there a team, maybe like a playoff team or someone in that more 10 to 25 range that you think he would just be a slam dunk fit for and would just be perfect for his career? Or is it more just he can go anywhere, maybe preferably in the East, and you're happy with it?
I think for Trey, he's very much a plug and play guy. Like he can kind of play in whatever offense because of the movement shooting ability, because of the ability not just to, create his own shot, which he showed he can do. Again, he's not really a lead initiator, but he's a guy that can create for himself. He's also a guy that can come off pin down screens and come off of different actions and hit threes very easily. I mean, we saw that mostly in the Arkansas game, and that's the game I point people towards if they want to see him really in action is the Arkansas game, because he showed a million different ways he could score off DHOs, coming off screens, creating for himself, getting to the line, contested shot. Like he did everything you could do in that game. They still freaking lost, but I think, I don't think Chicago would, because I think Chicago needs a center more than anything. They're aging at the center position. They need to move off the Vucevic contract, and they need to pair somebody with Matas Buzelis. Portland kind of has Shaedon Sharpe. This is kind of the last year, make it or break it year for Shaedon Sharpe before they probably move on for him. He's been injured and all that, but he has a high degree of talent. I just think he needs to maximize and unlock it. Yeah, I mean, OKC, I think I don't think they're going to be able to move up. People don't like to do deals with the champions typically. So I don't know. I still think I think Washington makes the most sense out of all these teams. That's probably where he's going to end up.
Yeah, the only one I really is I'm scanning that kind of 10 to 19 range where I'd be like, it's fun and I can kind of see it because of what they just did. Like maybe the Grizzlies go, let's just replace Bane with Johnson. Let's get aggressive and go up and get a guy to complement Morant. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do like. I mean, if Trey Johnson's a wizard, man, I'm the happiest guy on earth tonight. Because I'd love to see a Longhorn come and join in, and it's where he could most succeed as the guy and the number one option out of all these teams. Maybe alongside Brooklyn with what they've done recently, but Trey Johnson tonight at 7 p.m. You're going to see him. His outfit was interesting. I don't know if you were on Instagram at all.
But, I saw I threw up this interview, so that was pretty cool. Good for him.
But they're a lot of the guys are in their suits and ties already. He's kind of just in some baggy like gray clothing. Dylan Harper was in a Nike Tech. But 7 p.m. tonight Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. You're going to see all the draft coverage. Maybe we'll see some crazy things happen. I know you're going to be happy when that number one pick selection comes in for your Dallas Mavericks and Cooper Flag. We're going to take a quick break, hear from Lux, and then we'll be back with some more commitment and college basketball news.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
We have news of Sammy Jackson, who is a 6'7" wing from Pennsylvania. He's actually the number 1 rated player from Pennsylvania in On3's rankings at the current time. 2026 kid. Seems like his stock is slowly rising, but Texas is really in the mix here, and he will be committing today. Unfortunately, probably a little bit after you're going to see this episode. We can't record at 5 p.m. for these, but I believe he's committing at 4 p.m. Is that correct, Keenan?
Yeah, I think it's 5 Eastern. I'll repost his live stream, though.
Yeah, so that's Joe Tipton's there. The Final Four as we stand right now: Texas, VCU, St. Joe's, Indiana. Kind of hard. Different things are saying different stuff about who his last official visit was. It might have been Texas. It might have been VCU from what we know. But talk to me a little bit, Keenan, about who this player is, why Sean Miller's attacking him as one of the new guys, and what the odds are that Texas actually lands him today.
Yeah, I did some research. Texas was his last visit. It's Indiana, VCU, St. Joe's, Texas are the 4 teams. His dad played for Temple and played in the NBA. Mark Jackson, M-A-R-C Jackson, not to be confused with the former Warriors head coach. And mama, there goes that man merchant. Sammy Jackson is a guy. He's a big 6'7" wing. He's talented. offensive player, but I mean, he's one of those guys that has defensive upside, right? Like he's a high motor type of guy. I don't have his shooting numbers in front of me, but from the film I have watched of him, he's got a good form. So I don't know what the numbers look like, but he looks like a guy that could develop into a shooter if he isn't already. And we've heard different things. Again, I don't have a complete read on where he's going to commit. I'm not confident enough to say that he's going to commit anywhere in particular right now. But what I can say is, what On3 has, which is he's leaning St. Joe's. But again, the last visit being to Texas is a good sign for Texas. We'll know later today, but he would be an important pickup because he would be the first high school pickup for Sean Miller in the 2026 class, first commit. And we've seen the amount. I think it's important to note as well that Sammy Jackson is a guy that is part of a group of guys from across the country that Miller's been recruiting, right? He's not just sticking to the state of Texas. He's going after guys in California. He's going after guys in the Northeast. Just like Caden Samuels is a DMV guy. Like he's going after dudes in different states, going over all over the country to try to get different players. And a lot of these guys are big wings. Like he's going after 6'7", 6'8" guys, and if you look at some of the strategies of some of these NBA teams, look at the Thunder, look how big some of a lot of their wings were, right? And you see that the NBA is sort of building through the wings now. You look at Boston last year, two of their best players, arguably their two best players, were defensive-minded wings. You look at the NBA teams this year that made the conference finals. The Knicks have multiple defensive wings. OG Anunoby, Josh Hart to an extent is a defensive wing. You look at Pacers, Pascal Siakam plays some wing. I mean, he's more of a power forward, but he's a perimeter defender that's got size. The Thunder, Jalen Williams and Alex Caruso. Like this is just kind of the new wave of basketball, and it's interesting to see how Sean Miller has adapted his recruiting strategy to sort of fit that idea of we need to build through the perimeter defense guys that can create turnovers and push into transition and be kind of two-way players. And you look at the NBA draft tonight, it's full of guys that are two-way guys. You always have Cooper Flagg, but you have wings like even Nick Clifford from Colorado State is a two-way wing, a kind of, multifaceted guy that can play both sides of the ball. Even Cedric Howard is getting some props for his defensive upside. It's just kind of the new wave now, and it's just really interesting to see the kind of guys that Miller is targeting in high school ranks, and a lot of them are two-way guys. You look at the Texas roster now, Dalen Swain, two-way guy who can play a little bit of the wing spot, So Sammy Jackson would be a big pickup. We will know later tonight where he's going to commit, it seems a lot of people, from what I've heard talking to people in the last hour, Indiana seems to be one of the favorites. But again, you never really know. There's four options, and his last visit was to Texas, so we'll see.
Yeah, an important note is his dad did play at VCU his freshman year, then transferred over to Temple. Back when you transferred, you had to sit out a year. He ended up doing that. But yeah, it does, from what we can tell, seem like a four-horse race. Like there are all four teams feel like they have a chance here. It's unlike some of these football guys where it's down to two. But it is really important that you noted really early on in what you were saying that this is just Sean Miller's first commitment. That is what we're trying to get here. We're not, as much as it's sexy and it's flashy to get the 5-star guy, that your top guy in the class. Like with football, you need to start with your role players and the guys who are going to be there for multiple years. And in basketball, honestly, some of these guys are way more valuable to your team than the 5-stars, because as much as Trey Johnson was awesome, he's not here this year when the actual real basketball, theoretically, for Texas is going to be played at a higher level. So getting someone like Sammy Brown and, like you're talking about, a modern NBA style player. Sorry, Sammy Jackson. I think someone say Sammy Brown before the show. And then
somebody said Sammy Davis before the show.
Oh,
we're talking about jazz music.
I'm all over the place right now with Jackson. It's just the kind of player that won't have to be too much in year one, but as he gets his body more in shape and more NBA looking, these are the kind of guys that end up getting drafted in the NBA. Cedric Howard's a perfect player to bring up because these guys just end up becoming important players as you go on. And sometimes you start at a smaller school and you make your way up. Howard would have been playing at Duke if he wasn't entering the draft. Jackson's just doing the approach where he stays at Texas. He would maybe stay at Texas a year or two, wait in development, and then become that starter, the Dalen Swain type. And I think it's important to get as many of these commits as possible. It's good that Miller's going as far out as the East Coast and pretty north where he is in Pennsylvania. So it's a guy that you just really would love to have them take. And we're not going to know until 4 p.m. today what's going to happen. But I think everyone involved will be pretty happy with this being a win for Texas.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, they got to start building. I mean, they've been building the 26 class. That's really what they're swinging for right now. And I think they'll be competitive the first year in the Sean Miller's first year with Texas in the SEC. But I think they're really gunning for that 2026 class. They're trying to make a big swing, and they're trying to build momentum into that 2026, 2027 season. So this would be a really good start for that.
And that's kind of all we have for official Texas basketball news. You know, it's still kind of the dead of the offseason. I do know, I don't know how much we've learned from it, Keenan, but you talked a little bit about Austin Gooseby on our board. He did come for an official visit. Or was it an unofficial?
It was an unofficial.
Unofficial.
Yeah.
Did we get anything new from that? Is there anything apart from what we kind of already know about this kid?
Well, he set his official dates recently, and Justin Wells tweeted that out yesterday. And he's going to be at Texas the September 5th through the 7th. So that'll be his official visit. He got offered by Duke recently, so there's just some stiff competition, but I still like where Texas stands.
Yeah, and having your brother there who's going to be a starting left tackle.
An All-American left tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Just the biggest dude doing 360 windmills.
Unbelievable. Freak show athlete, dude. Crazy.
And, like, if that's what the left tackle looks like, Jesus, how about the 6'5" basketball player? But, yeah, so 2026 right now seems to be what the focus is for Texas. You're still waiting. Is there going to be a point guard out of this team? We don't know as of yet. Obviously, Evan Blandor, we talked about in the last one when I was back in Cancun about what happened with him, but probably not going to be on the team for this next year. But the Longhorns looking to get that first commit tonight with the 2026 class. Of course, later, 3 hours after that happens, you're going to see Trey Johnson walk the stage, hopefully donning a Wizards cap in my eyes, probably something like the Wizards, Jazz, Pelicans, Nets. Look for him in that range for those who haven't been following too closely. So tune into the NBA draft. It's a pretty good product. It's now a 2-day event, I believe. Is that right, Keenan?
Yeah, it is.
So look out for Johnson. No other Longhorns are going to meet it. That's going to do it for us over here at Inside Texas Basketball. Thank you, Lux, for that sponsor. And, of course, make sure you're going over to Inside Texas for the best content about Texas basketball, baseball, football, everything that's going on. Baseball transfer portals is popping up right now. Football, we just had Sark on third and Longhorn, and season's getting close for those football fans. So that's going to do it for us. Thank you, as always, Keenan, and thank you to Connor behind the scenes. We're going to get out of here. See y'all.